Johannesburg, South Africa, spring 2009. Clint Eastwood is directing Invictus, the story of how Nelson Mandela encouraged a rugby team to contend for the World Cup in 1995, and by so doing, helped break the lingering grip of apartheid on his beloved country.
It was a very inspirational story. Everybody knows the history of Nelson Mandela, but this element of his history, I don't think people are that familiar with. Invictus with Morgan Freeman and Matt Damon, it's about reconciliation and how one man's ideas can reconcile a country.
He's shooting in the very stadium where the Cup final was played. South Africa's Springboks versus New Zealand's All Blacks, named for their uniforms. What's missing here is most of the crowd. They'll be represented by hundreds of special effects shots. Rugby was a white man's game. Mandela's inspiration was to help build his rainbow nation by getting his nation's black majority to root for a team associated with their former oppressors. As usual, Clint is very much a hands-on director. He's been doing this since 1971. This is the 29th movie he has directed. In over 30 years at Warner Brothers, Clint has made 34 movies. Many have been action films, but many have not. They include romances, comedies, and more recently, they've been touched by tragedy. He goes where instinct and emotion tell him to go. Whatever the genre, he walks tall and speaks sparingly.
Hi. What's up? I always liked the studio. Warner Brothers had great history. I went over there several times during the 50s to do some television shows. It was always nice. There was something small, a little more homey about it.
On this stage, Warner's made many of Clint's early favorites.
I grew up admiring a lot of the Warner's pictures. Well, they had a lot of wonderful performers, and they were all performers that I enjoyed as a kid. I liked Cagney. He was short and Eastern, but he was always a very energetic soul, inside and out. He was a fearless kind of actor. One of my favorite roles, of course, is White Heat, where he'd play gangsters and shoot people in the trunk of cars with a chicken leg in his mouth.
Oh, stuffy, huh? I'll give it a layer.
Yeah, I loved Bogart. They didn't try to glamour him up, which is great. Cut to him at the beginning of Treasure Sierra Madre, and his hair's all shaved up in the back, and he looks really funky. Starting out with Maltese Falcon, and then going back and revisiting films like Petrified Forest, High Sierra. Those were kind of movies that were appealing to a 16, 17-year-old kid at that particular time. When I was first acting and I was doing a lot of bit parts, the guys would call you in to the acting group or producers and say, well, come on in and play it with balls. You know, they'd say, play a ball day. And I'd go, I didn't ever know what they were talking about. It was hard for me to fathom because I'd never even heard that expression. They were trying to say, take stage, own the room.
That's a trick he began to learn early, guesting on shows like Maverick.
Ace is up.
Your stage is waiting for you, Maverick.
You selling tickets?
No, but you're buying one.
I am?
Yes, indeed. You be an understanding soul, and one that don't like violence.
Let's get out of here, Maverick. You don't want any trouble. You're right, Doc. Not that kind.
You don't have to be disrespectful to be a masculine kid. My father was a very gentle person. He was a strong guy, He always taught respect for my mother. It was always respect for the family, and the family unit meant a lot. And that didn't mean he was a pushover.
Clint made his first mark starring as Rowdy Yates on television's Rawhide for 7 years. He achieved movie stardom in the 3 spaghetti westerns he made in Italy with Sergio Leone.
Oh, shit.
When I came over there to do Dirty Harry, it was 1971. They had 5 scripts. They had a big stack of them, and I'm going, what's all this stuff? And they said, well, these are all our rewrites and what we've done with it so far with different directors, different writers, different actors involved. I said, okay. So I sat and read all these scripts. It was very, very tough to do, sit and read 5 scripts, all going in different directions. And I felt myself getting confused with what I first liked in the original script. So I said, no, I came back to Frank Wells, and I said, you know, I like the first one. I said, I'll do the first script. So that's what we did.
Dirty Harry was the movie that made him a permanent superstar.
Like most pictures that I've done, I've had no idea whether anybody would ever want to see them. But I figured I'd like to see it. If I hadn't played in it, I'd like to see it with somebody else. So I just kind of went from that angle.
I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I've kind of lost track myself. But Ian, this is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off. You've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Mr. Mayor, Inspector Callahan. All right. Let's have it.
Have what?
Report. What have you been doing?
Oh, well, for the past 3/4 of an hour, I've been sitting on my ass in your outer office, waiting on you.
Damn it all, Harry, that's the mayor you're talking to.
Actually, the obsession of the hero I like. The fact that he was obsessed with getting this guy, and it became a one-on-one sort of enemy thing.
No more!
Harry may have been a wise guy, but he had a passion for vengeance and a lonely guy's soul.
Please give me the doctor! The girl, where is she?
You tried to kill me!
If I tried that, your head would be splattered all over this field. Now, where's the girl?
I was a lawyer.
I said, where's the girl?
I have the right for a lawyer.
Where's the girl?
I have the right for a lawyer. Don't you please? I have rights for a lawyer.
Dirty Harry had a very solitary existence. He didn't have a private life that he really cared much about. All he cared about was this particular victim, somebody he'd never met. Dirty Harry was seeing it all crumble before him. Everybody was just sort of sick of worrying about the accused. They said, how about let's worry about the victims for a while. We're taught to walk so softly and tamper around in this whole political correctness that was driving everybody crazy. I think Dirty Harry defied that.
The Dirty Harry sequels outlined his career in the 70s and 80s, but didn't fully define it.
God damn it, there isn't supposed to be any shooting.
Nothing wrong with shooting. All the right people get shot.
That's it, Callahan. Give me your star.
There's a 7-point suppository, Captain.
What did you say?
I said stick it in your ass.
Come on, you guys, hurry up!
You forgot your fortune cookie.
What?
It says you're shit out of luck.
One of them provided him a line that would ricochet around the world and down the corridors of time.
Go ahead. Make my day.
I bounced back and forth in the early 70s and would do something for Universal, and then finally in 1976, I had The Outlaw Josie Wales. I brought that over to Frank Wells. He'd been lobbying me for quite some time to come over there on a permanent basis. So I just said, well, show me that permanent basis, and I'm coming over. So it was a one-day move. I've been there ever since.
Josie Wales is a peaceable farmer until Civil War border raiders wipe out his family. He retreats into the wilderness and into himself, a lonely, bitter man, a classic Western hero, and something more.
The great American fantasy is the guy who sort of is self-reliant, that doesn't have the luxury of depending upon a police department or somebody to come to his rescue. So he has to kind of handle everything on his own.
Howdy.
Howdy.
I'm getting better at sneaking up on you like this. Only an Indian can do something like this.
That's what I figured.
You figured.
Only an Indian could do something like that.
Chief Dan George, he was wonderful in the picture, but wasn't a professional actor, so he didn't study material much. He wanted to have cue cards, and you couldn't have him do cue cards. I made him just kind of run the lines and then kind of just get him to tell me different stories. One time, I was playing the scene and the camera was on me, and then when he was talking, I was mouthing the words. I was mouthing his words because I was rooting for him to get the dialogue out so much. And the focus puller on the picture said, you know, Clint, he said, I hate to tell you, but you're mouthing the words with him. And I said, oh, God. And I walked off and I kicked myself. I said, hey, I can't do that.
Chief? Chief? Hey. Oh, Chief. I was just wondering, I suppose that mangy red-boned hound got no place else to go either. Well, you might as well ride along with us. Hell, everybody else is.
Slowly, a surrogate family gathers around him and heals him. The rescue and restoration of shattered families has been one of Clint's great and almost unnoticed themes ever since.
I'm looking for Josie Wales.
That'd be me.
Maybe in another era, Gary Cooper or John Wayne or somebody might have done these same stories.
You a bounty hunter?
Yeah, he's got to do something for a living these days.
Dying ain't much of a living, boy.
Josie's resignation in the face of violence is subtly understated and typical of Clint.
I had to come back.
I know.
You're all alone now, Wales.
Not quite alone.
The pursuit of Josie Wales has been demonic, and it must end, of course, in deadly confrontation. Often in Eastwood movies, the guns are empty. Sometimes a pointed finger substitutes for them. Maybe he wishes that in movies, in life, gunplay could always be reduced to harmless child's play. But movies aren't life. A final reckoning is required. That's why we go to them. This courthouse has stood on Warner's back lot since 1930. It has a secret history, too. It's where the costumes from all Clint's movies are stored. Clint's longtime costume supervisor is Deborah Hopper.
Do these look familiar to you?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
We can't forget Dirty Harry.
No.
Everybody loves Dirty Harry.
Rack clothes, yeah.
Yes, and the soulful Unforgettable.
Unforgiven. It's unforgettable, though. So
You're right.
it was unforgettable for me. Anyway,
and one of my favorites, Gran Torino.
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Walt.
And this guy here?
Marine.
Yeah, this is Heartbreak Ridge, huh? Yeah. Good. Well, what do we got in here? Anything?
We've got lots of
anything
treasures.
fancy?
As you can see, we've collected clothes for a long time, so this is basically what lies on this floor is all the extra clothing that we have here.
On every picture that we've been involved with?
Every picture. So
What movies were these? I should remember, but I don't.
You don't? Come on. Down here we have just different rows of, pants, shirts. This particular row, some of it's from Heartbreak Ridge. These two rows in the front here from the new movie Invictus, the rugby movie, Mandela picture. We have changeling clothes, and the boxes in the back. There's Mystic River, Midnight in the Garden, Good and Evil.
I remember all of
You do?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah. Vaguely. How many clothes do you think we have in here? I mean, if you really just to guess, what would you think?
Know.
It would be in the thousands,
thousands,
I know.
10,000, 20,000 pieces.
We can
It's
costume a lot of movies in here.
Yes, we can, and I still use them. I take them with me every time we do a...
We're an austerity group.
Yes, but I there is a secret closet, though.
Really?
Yeah.
Where's that?
I'll show you. This is where all the treasures lie, Clint.
Treasures, huh?
This is your closet.
I see.
With all of your clothes from the movies.
Yeah. Here's a Pale Rider, I remember that.
This is Pale Rider.
Yeah.
And this would be from the line of Fire.
Uh-huh.
Of course, this is from Space Cowboy. This is your landing suit. You remember you had to wear a
I
cooling...
remember it because it's extremely heavy.
And you had to wear a cooling unit to keep you cool when
had
you
to have air
this on.
conditioning.
And this is from Play Misty for Me.
Yeah. That's the first picture I ever directed.
Yeah, that was a great one.
1970. How many years ago was that?
Just a few.
39, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's enough. That's going back far enough. And this guy here, who is this guy?
He must be a friend of yours.
It's like some sort of deviant. Okay.
You never know what you're going to find in here.
All righty.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Bronco Billy McCoy!
Heroism can be tiring and tiresome. There comes a time in every movie star's life when anti-heroism becomes a delightful necessity.
Are you ready, Miss Mitzi?
Yes, Bronco Billy.
All right. Spin the wheel.
It had that sort of group of outcasts, obsolete people doing an obsolete act in the middle of America.
All right, turn around nice and easy.
Wow!
Ain't nobody faster than Bronco Billy. Now look, I don't take kindly to kids playing hooky from school. I think every kid in America ought to go to school, at least up through the 8th grade.
We don't go to school today, Bronco Billy. It's Saturday.
Well, what should I tell the boys?
Tell them we're gonna rob a train.
Okay, Billy. Rob a train?
Of course, reality has a tendency to thunder right on past our fantasies. But that doesn't mean that our dreams are meaningless. Maybe they're the best thing about us.
Cowboys and Indians.
Of course
house, dear.
There's something so beautifully naive about it all. A guy who's a shoe salesman in New Jersey who goes out and has this dream of becoming a modern-day Tom Mix.
Damn it, I don't have no privacy in my own home no more.
Well, I confronted him about it, Mom, and I guarantee it won't happen again.
No privacy in your own home? A whole goddamn bag of Oreos.
Everyone told Clint not to make a movie where he was upstaged by a monkey, but instinct trumped doubts. Every Which Way But Loose was his biggest hit to date.
Why this is gonna stop? People are gonna talk, you know? Bang!
Well, there's a different kind of a spiritual feeling. The protagonist, you don't know whether he's a man of the cloth or whether he's some sort of apparition or something.
What we did know was that by now, Clint was doing his best to avoid genre cliches.
I didn't come here to fight. Then you shouldn't have come here at all.
You made a big mistake, Tin Pan. You know that?
Mind if I take a look at your goods? You leave them be. Come on down over there. Canvas, burlap, and wood. Like to make us for good fire, right, boys? Yeah.
Shouldn't play with matches. Nothing like a nice piece of hickory.
Clint's nameless character sides with humble tin pan miners defending their claim against industrial mining interests who have all the big guns on their side.
Done now, preacher?
Part of it leastways.
He's definitely an odd character in the spectrum of things, but he preaches a lot of American ethics in a way that can be violent and they can also be very gentle.
Clint likes resurrections. They've happened in his films dating back to his days with Sergio Leone in Italy. Here he confronts the lawman who thought he had killed him in some past life. That's not necessarily so in this unique Western.
You!
At that time, I had done Dirty Harry and various sequels, and I was tired of that character. It was a good script. I liked it, and the provocativeness of it I liked. Anytime you take yourself into other dimensions, it's much more fun as an actor than just being conventional and doing your routine or your genre or whatever you're well known for. Here's a guy who is obviously has had a failed marriage, And it's failed to the point where he's actually got custody of his daughters. So that makes him a really interesting character. In the meantime, he's following a kinky killer, and he finds himself being intrigued by some of the same things as the killer.
Has he contacted you?
No.
I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
Why?
Once you started going after him, you became closer to him than anyone else. Unless there's another psychopath out doing the same thing.
I'm not sure how close I want to get.
There's a darkness inside all of us, Wes. You, me, and the man down the street. Some have it under control, others act it out. The rest of us try to walk a tightrope between the two.
Disable your attacker. Now, several ways of sending him a message are stomping on his toes, scratching his eyes, hitting this vital point here in the throat, kicking into his kneecaps, striking his solar plexus. And if he still keeps on acting tacky, well, then you can always drop back and punch.
Hi.
She's more of coming from a more conventional line, and all of a sudden she finds he's got sort of a bizarre side to him. And it sort of shocks her at first, but then she's also intrigued by it.
Geneviève Bujold's rape counselor instinctively understands Wes Block and saves him from his darker impulses.
Now, why do you think he uses handcuffs?
Control?
Do you use them very often?
Well, it depends.
On what?
Situation.
When you feel you're threatened?
Yeah, you could say that.
With these, no one can get to you, huh?
They'll stop just about anyone.
The strongest men emotionally are the most respectful of women. And the strongest women and the most feminine women are usually very respectful of men. And that's the way it is. It's the in-between group that tries to mess it all up.
There's nothing in between about Gunnery Sergeant Tom Highway. Clint says he's the most extreme parody of traditional masculinity he's ever played.
My name is Gunnery Sergeant Highway, and I've drunk more beer and pissed more blood and banged more quiff, busted more than all you numbnuts put together. Now, Major Powers has put me in charge of this recon platoon.
We take care of ourselves.
You couldn't take care of a wet dream. God loves you.
I know that.
You men do not impress me.
Recon platoon kicks butt.
God, you ladies think you can slip and slide just because your last sergeant was a pussy. A short-timer who's just marking the days with queer bait. You're gonna start acting like Marines right now. He's been so far out of it, being in the military and going on military excursions for most of his adult life, that he has no relationship. He even remembered the brand.
Bad whiskey, bad sex, and bad men, I never forget.
You didn't talk dirty like that when we were married.
Always. Only you were never there to hear it. Look, Tom, I'm working.
Hey, you look great.
The lights are low.
No, I mean it. I mean, I'd recognize you coming and going.
Oh, please, save the banter for your bimbos. It's late, I'm tired, my feet hurt. What the hell are you doing here?
He's been married to the same girl for quite a while, but he doesn't understand a thing about them, as most of us don't. But he kind of desperately wants to correct his life.
Sensual communication, meaningful.
Panther piss. Tell me something. Did we mutually nurture each other?
I beg your pardon?
Did we communicate in a meaningful way in our relationship?
Relationship?
Hmm?
Hell, I thought we were married.
When I grew up, people didn't have any doubts about it. You just felt what you felt like, and you thought what you thought. And if you're sitting around dwelling on the feminine side of your nature, you went out and had a beer and forgot about it. You know, guys just didn't think that way. Women thought their way, and men thought their way, and somehow everybody would meet in the middle.
This was a time when Clint was questioning the underlying values of the kind of men he had achieved stardom playing, never more so than in White Hunter, Black Heart.
I enjoyed playing that character because I admired John Huston as a film director. I think if he ever focused entirely on a film, he would have been under pressure. Oh, I've got people depending on me. I've got audiences depending on this film. This way, he never had to think of that. He was always, okay, I'll make the film. But in the meantime, what's going on out at Santa Anita? Or I've got this great-looking chick who lives on the other side of town. I've got to meet her for dinner. You always got something that's taking him a little bit away.
The meantime in this film was hunting, especially for the grandest prize of them all.
You have to get started on the film, John.
You can leave if you want. I'm staying.
The company arrives in Entebbe the day after tomorrow.
I'm staying.
Jesus Christ, John, will you be reasonable?
I am being reasonable. I don't give a goddamn if the company gets here tomorrow or if they got here 3 days ago. I'm staying till I get my elephant.
He had this obsession about an elephant because it's certainly the largest animal. I had never understood that. Personally, I don't shoot any animal. I don't look at it from a religious morality, but I just feel that they're here too. There are guys like this. I mean, there are guys like him. It's a fascinating character. I've always felt about it that you didn't need to take a pill for manhood. You are what you are, and you don't need to put on an act. And I used to, some of the old-time directors used to do that. I mean, that was part of the thing, is go and kick people around. A lot of contention, a lot of arguments and stuff like that. And it wasn't necessarily a masculine thing to do at all. It was just a contentious thing to do.
You're about to blow this whole picture out of your nose, John. And for what? To commit a crime. To kill one of the rarest, most noble creatures that roams the face of this crummy earth. And in order for you to commit this crime, you're willing to forget about all of us and let this whole goddamn thing go down the drain.
You're wrong, kid. It's not a crime to kill an elephant. It's bigger than all that. It's a sin to kill an elephant.
He just like he wanted to commit the ultimate sin of some sort. Vertel wrote this in, that he comes to this culmination within himself. He comes to this thing where this elephant is too magnificent to shoot, and it all comes apart. No! And his friend is killed, and it really makes him believe that what he's done, look what he's done, look what his obsessions have brought upon us.
Question: does cowardice lurk at the heart of macho posturing? Or does some kind of morality finally assert itself here? That's for the audience to determine. Clint won't say. Honky Tonk Man is Clint's most modest film.
Well, I'm
never seen you look quite so sad.
He's a guy who's afraid of success. And there's a lot of guys like that. They have a certain little knack, and they have an opportunity to go to the Grand Ole Opry, the Ryman Auditorium, and maybe play, but they're so afraid of failure that they just automatically will it.
His son Kyle played opposite him.
Uncle Red, don't you think maybe you have a problem with your drinking?
Only when I can't get it.
I mean, don't you think you might need some help with your drinking?
No, I do quite well all by myself.
Aren't there doctors that...
Look, Hoss, if you want to be my sidekick and chauffeur, that's fine. But if I want a nursemaid and a wife to bitch at me, I'll go out and get myself one. Understand? Alcoholism and chasing women, and he's got a lot of the habits that, of course, none of us had. But anyway.
So I lost my woman, and you lost your man, and who knows who's right or who's wrong. But I've got my guitar, and I've got a plan. Throw your arms around this honky-tonk man. Throw your arms around this honky-tonk man, and we'll get through this night the best way we can.
Self-destructiveness is one of life's great mysteries to Clint. Maybe because he's so lacking in that impulse. Clint shoots more on location than at the studio, but there are notable exceptions.
So, this is New York Street, as it was in the old days. We had Diane Venora up there in the window looking out.
Okay, just pull right in, a little more. Come here, Thunder. Oops. Ooh.
Forrest Whitaker out here on a white horse. This was the film Bird, and we emulated New York.
This was a passion project for Clint, the biography of his musical hero, Charlie Parker.
Where are we going?
Now, what's her name didn't ask Valentino no questions like that?
Vilma banking, and he had her in front of him, and she was in a swoon. Woo!
He seemed to be somewhat possessed. I don't know whether it was insecurity or being blessed with a certain talent that frustrated him, and or whatever, or having an interracial relationship at that particular time in history might have been very difficult too. And this was in the 40s. Well, I like jazz players because they were doing something that wasn't obviously commercial. The people were playing for themselves. And if you wanted to listen, fine. If you didn't, that's fine too. It wasn't as show busy like pop music is now, where there's lights and costumes and a lot of things that were very important to the act besides the music. They just stood up and performed.
The sources of Bird's greatness and self-hatred were a mystery to Clint, and the basis of the film's resonance.
Bird, of course, went in from alcoholism into drugs, and so these guys, they just let the temptations of life take them off the trail of their talent. You think of all the people who have had talent and knack for something and didn't follow through with it. That's kind of where the crime comes in. I guess there's always that thing in the back of your mind is, do I really know how to do this? I guess you could say the same about actors. If they haven't acted for a long time, they'd walk into a scene and you wonder, do I still know what I'm doing here? Charlie Parker, a guy who is that brilliant, has a great knack, and he's self-destruct rather than enjoying the fruit of the labor, so to speak.
Very nice, Charlie. Very nice.
They're gonna talk about you when you dead, Bird.
More than they do now. They're gonna shovel you under like they love to do. They're gonna talk about you.
My secret is, if they kill me, it won't be because I helped them.
Charles Christopher Parker, Jr., preliminary diagnosis, heart attack. Stocky, male, Negro, Approximately 65 years of age.
He was 34.
"1992's Unforgiven was Clint's first fully acknowledged masterpiece. Like many of his best films, it drew strength from its genre roots and from the desire to transcend those roots. Unlike them, he held on to it for a decade until the time was right to make it.
It was something I could sit on and bank, and I kind of hung on to it like a nice little gold watch and rubbed it. I think it was nice and kind of nice feeling to know that I had it back there.
I ain't gonna hold it against her. She knew me back then. She knew what a no-good son of a bitch I was. She just ain't allowing it to change. She don't realize I ain't like that no more.
Well, you know, Will.
I ain't the same, Ned. Claudia, she straightened me up. Cleared me of drinking whiskey and all. And just because we're going on this killing, that don't mean I'm gonna go back to being the way I was. I just need the money. Get a new start for them youngsters.
Yeah.
Better finish him before he gets clear.
They're trying to claim a reward by killing the cowboys who grievously wounded a prostitute. It's harder to do than they thought.
He gets in those rocks, we ain't gonna get him. Unless we go down there.
Well, ain't you gonna shoot?
Well, well, I ain't very good with one of these.
Suspect! 600, take one, marker.
I tried to do some rewrites on Unforgiven with David Peoples, and he said fine. He was just anxious to have it made because it had been sitting around for many years. He said, go ahead, anything you want to do with it. And so I started writing and fooling with things and changing things, and all of a sudden I realized I was wrecking it. So I called him up and I said, forget what I said about that. I said, I'm just going to shoot it the way it is. Unforgiven really talked about the regret of violence. What's it like for anybody all of a sudden look back on it one day and you say, what the hell have I done? You know, what the hell have I been involved with?
It's a hell of a thing, killing a man. You take away all he's got and all he's ever gonna have.
Yeah. Well, I guess they had it coming.
We all have it coming, kid.
The film brings Clint's Will Money into deadly conflict with Gene Hackman's sadistic and self-righteous sheriff.
548, take one, Bart.
Look down there, look down at him. You can't believe it. Just look back over at me.
Cowardly son of a bitch, you just shot an unarmed man.
Well, he should have armed himself. He's gonna decorate his saloon with my friend.
You beat William Money out of Missouri. Killer of women and children.
That's right. I've killed women and children. Killed just about everything that walks or crawled at one time or another. And I'm here to kill you, Little Bill. For what you did to Ned.
Roll.
Misfire. Kill us, bitch.
Just like that. Unforgiven would be a great one to be the last Western for me because it captured the imagination of audiences and film critics liked it and everybody agreed it was a pretty good picture and I don't know what else I'd have to say.
I don't deserve this. to die like this. I was building a house.
Deserves got nothing to do with it.
I'll see you in hell, William Money.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, I worked with young TJ, who was a very young kid, very natural actor. But I knew he was only good on first takes. Second take, maybe, but first take's really good. So I just made sure that we just started rolling. No slates, none of that crap. Let's go. When I just go like that, everybody starts rolling. And the sound guy has to be on the ball because he's not going to hear any bells or whistles. And everybody has to stay coordinated. It wasn't a commercial movie in the line of what people thought were commercial movies. That made it all the more intriguing to me. I've long ago given up wanting to make a movie with the concern about what it does and where the audience is. I would rather face the danger of it and have the fun and the freedom of making some comment that is maybe to an older audience or an audience that is more mature.
You know, Philip, you have a goddamn red, white, and blue American right. Eat cotton candy, ride roller coasters.
I do?
Hell yes, you do.
It's the story of an escaped criminal and the father-son relationship that develops between him and his child hostage. It's a bond that's both sweet and ultimately tragic.
I think he sees himself in the boy, in the life that he never had, and it's the only sort of camaraderie I think he'd had as an adult, because he was sort of a bitter guy and had taken a bad road in life.
Me and you got a lot in common, Philip. The both of us is handsome devils. We both like RC Cola. And neither one of us got an old man worth a damn.
In the scene with the family, when he takes them hostage, his maniacal side comes out.
Butch suspects the father of being abusive, as his own father was.
The little boy is torn, and so he ends up saving the family or interfering because he thinks he's going to kill him. And we don't know as the audience whether he is going to kill him or not.
At its most basic level, the film was a long chase, with the law drawing ever closer to the fugitive.
Do they want to shoot you?
Chief, we got an armed killer and an innocent boy out there.
You clean? As a whistle. All right, you keep him locked down. Don't squeeze till I say when, you hear?
Where the hell are you going?
I wasn't planning on being in it at all, and in fact, I was very set against it. And then Kevin comes in and says, "Oh, no, you got to be in it, you got to be in it, you got to play the sheriff." So finally, I said, "Okay."
I'm unarmed, so throw your gun down.
Do I know you, friend?
No, not really.
Huh. Well, look, I want to talk to the boy. Then we can take care of business. How's that? Only take a second.
Okay.
I want to give you something.
Hold him. If he makes a move.
Give it a second.
Maybe someday he'll get to go.
He's going for his weapon.
Damn, Buzz. Shot twice in the same day. Oh. Oh.
Okay, get ready and go.
Directing and acting is much more difficult because you have to keep constantly switching your brain. After you get something laid out, then you have to step in and go through it sort of half in the directing mind and half in the acting. And then at some point, you've got to be able to switch the directing mind out of it and just do the shot. You can't, otherwise, you can't be thinking about how the shot's working out as you're acting it, or otherwise you're going to be driven crazy. Meryl Streep, when we worked together in Bridges in Madison County, she commented that she thought that I made that switch pretty well because she had worked with other actor-directors where she felt that they never stopped directing, even when they were in the scene. There's a little glint in the eye where they're looking at him differently than as the character's looking at him. She wasn't fond of the book, and when I talked to her, I said, well, I wasn't fond of it either, but I'd like you to look at the script. I thought the book was just an idea that was an interesting idea. So I sent her the script. She called me the next day and she says, gee, I really like this. She said, I really like this. And I said, okay, you want to do it? And she said, yes. I said, okay, this is a handshake over the phone. So we did. So we started very few weeks later.
In a way, it was Clint's most surprising movie, a full-out romance.
I get the distinct feeling that I'm lost.
I don't think he's out searching for housewives in middle America or something, but it just, fate kind of drives him that way.
I'm looking for a bridge, one of those covered bridges out here in this neighborhood.
It would be easier to tell you if the roads were marked.
Yeah, it certainly would.
Well, I can take you if you want. Or I can tell you. I can take you or tell you. Either way, it's up to you. I don't care.
Well, I wouldn't want to take you away from what you're doing.
No, I was just going to have some iced tea and then split the atom, but that can wait.
Okay.
Oh, there you are.
Oh, you caught me. I was just picking you some flowers.
Oh?
Men still do that, don't they? I'm not out of date, am I? I've been picking flowers for a woman, a sign of appreciation.
No, not at all. Except those are poisonous. I'm kidding. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. I'm so sorry.
Are you sadistic by nature, or what?
No. I don't know.
She's got 2 wonderful kids, and her husband is okay. He's kind of a guy who probably doesn't show her a whole lot of attention. She gets this fantasy trip thrown at her. And then all of a sudden it's, how do I deal with that emotionally? What kind of morality? How does this affect everything I believe in life? That's kind of what I like in stories and in movies and plays, where fate takes you in a way you're totally unprepared for.
There would be nothing tragic in all my dreams of you.
You want me to stop? Tell me now.
It doesn't matter where you are.
No one's asking you to.
'Cause I can see how fair you are.
I'm not going to apologize for
No,
who I am.
nobody's asking
And
you
I'm
to.
not going to be made to feel like I've done something
No,
wrong
you're
here.
not going to be made to feel anything, period, because you have carved out this little part for yourself in the world where you get to be a voyeur and a hermit and a lover whenever you feel like it. And the rest of us are supposed to feel incredibly grateful for this brief moment that you touched her. Go to hell! It isn't human not to be lonely, and it isn't human not to be afraid. You're a hypocrite and you're a phony.
I don't want to need you.
What?
Because I can't have you.
To me, it was more of a woman's story. It was her dilemma more than his.
I'll only say this once. I've never said it before. But this kind of certainty comes but just once in a lifetime.
And she has the dilemma at the end when the relationship finally culminates and becomes very serious, then she's the one who has to make the ultimate choice.
Like all good romances, this one ends in sadness. Poignancy resonates with us. Happy endings are easier to do and easier to forget. This scoring stage bears Clint's name. The studio was planning to shut it down, but Clint spoke up to urge its rescue and restoration. It's something he's proud of.
And then they call it the Eastwood soundstage. And so then they told me that because of that, they restored the whole thing and they're back in business. And I told Ailey, I said, if I'd have known that, I'd have asked you to change the name on the tower too and put Eastwood Brothers. But it didn't quite work out that way. I didn't play it that far. But many of my films that were scored here, most of them, almost all of them, and I'm pleased. I'm pleased to throw in, if I just had a little bit to do with it, that's fine by me. We even did Mystic River and the soundstage, and that kind of went like this.
The story begins with 3 kids playing on a Boston street, one of whom is abducted and sexually abused.
Even though it's a tough subject matter, it was an easy film to make. I liked the book. It was a very visual book. I just saw it. I saw it in my mind. I liked the ironies in it. It just fell together kind of nicely. And the actors who read the stories all liked it. I mean, everybody, sometimes actors would call up and say, gee, I want to be in that picture. And they'd say, what part were you interested in? Any part.
The abducted child grows up to be Tim Robbins' ruined man. Another becomes Kevin Bacon's troubled detective. The third boy grows up to be Sean Penn's small-time criminal, now going straight until tragedy strikes.
Then all of a sudden, the daughter's taken away from him through a tragic murder.
Hey! Hold on! Is that my daughter in there? Is that my daughter in there? No! No! No!
I loved her. Most. Because when we were sitting in that kitchen that night, it was like we were the last 2 people on Earth. You know, forgotten. Unwanted. And it's really starting to piss me off, Dave, because I can't cry for my own little daughter, and I can't even cry for her. Jimmy. You're crying now.
Fate took the story in a certain way, and there's no turning back from it. There was no way any human being could manipulate it.
Admit it, Dave. Admit what you did. Admit it. Yeah. Yeah, I did it.
He actually ends up killing the wrong person.
Why? Why? A dream of youth. I don't remember having one. So what's the dream? The dream, yeah. You know what I mean. If you got that car instead of me. But I didn't get that car, Dave. Come here. You did.
Wasting your time. I told you I don't train girls.
Thought you might change your mind.
There's dozens of trainers who train girls. You won't have any trouble finding one.
Don't hardly need a dozen, boss. You'll do fine.
Don't call me boss now. I'm not your boss, and don't you be calling me that. Willie, you ready to work?
Anytime. If I stop calling you boss, will you train me?
No.
Then I might as well just keep calling you it.
When we started to do it, everybody interpreted it as a woman's boxing movie, and my theory is it wasn't. It was a father-daughter love story, and that's the way I approached telling it. You're not breathing right. That's why you're panting. So it's your birthday, huh? How old does that make you?
I'm 32, Mr. Dunn. And I'm here celebrating the fact that I spent another year scraping dishes and waitressing, which is what I've been doing since 13. And according to you, I'll be 37 before I can even throw a decent punch. Which, after working this feedback for a month, getting nowhere, I now realize may be God's simple truth. Other truth is, my brother's in prison. My sister cheats on welfare by pretending one of her babies is still alive. My daddy's dead, and my mama weighs 312 pounds. If I was thinking straight, I'd go back home, find a used trailer, buy a deep fryer and some Oreos. The problem is, this is the only thing I ever felt good doing. If I'm too old for this, then I got nothing. That enough truth to suit you?
Hilary Swank won an Oscar for her performance in this exquisite and unlikely movie. I won the Best Supporting Actor prize. Clint was named Best Director of the year's Best Picture.
They were people on the edge of society in this broken down little gym, but, and somehow she becomes something. She becomes something, and he becomes something with her. The father that she never had, and the daughter he's never had, relationship with, everything is wonderful, and then all of a sudden, the bottom falls out. And then, of course, it deals with the ultimate thing.
No Eastwood movie is more memorably or more tragically fated.
What happens when you have the ultimate dilemma of how to handle a family situation. And that gives the drama to the picture. Conflict like that, inner conflicts and outer conflicts are the basics of all drama. A picture wouldn't work without it, really. A lot of people after $1 Million Baby thought, well, oh, he's pro-euthanasia. Of course I'm not pro-euthanasia. But the drama is being tested to the absolute ultimate of what would you do in that situation. And we see a guy who destroys himself and his soul by becoming involved in it. I'm going to disconnect your air machine. And you're going to go to sleep. And I'll give you a shot and you'll stay asleep. Kushla means my darling.
my blood.
It was a tough little movie, and also a very tender one.
Hey, can we stop just up here?
Yeah.
This place has the best lemon pie around. None of that canned filling crap.
A car came in here. It was a night, of course, and then we drove right by, and then you pan over, and you saw the little restaurant right there.
Now I can die and go to heaven.
So this is it. It looks a lot different now. Doesn't look quite as good as it did then, but this cabin and this lake have been used in many, many pictures, but each time everybody dresses it differently. And the shot you're making right now is sort of the last shot of the picture where we go through the window that's frosted and we see Frankie. Maybe he owns the place. Maybe he just is having lemon meringue pie. We don't know. He's disappeared somewhere into the world after she dies.
Hey, camera only marker.
I bought the book from Flags of Our Fathers and started the picture. I was doing all the prep with the picture, and the more preparation I did for that picture, the more I started thinking, I wonder what it was like for the other side. Especially after having traveled to Iwo Jima and crawled through the tunnels of Iwo Jima where the enemy was holed up.
Dutiful men, often doomed by that quality, are among Clint's favorite protagonists. Such a man was the Japanese commander on Iwo Jima.
And so I went off to Iceland to shoot Flags of Our Fathers. On that trip, I had in my hand both Flags of Our Fathers and letters from Iwo Jima. And so all the time I was shooting flags, I was also shooting an occasional shot for letters. So as I was editing flags, we had to wait a while because we had some visual effects that needed to be made. So during that period, we went off to Iwo Jima and made letters from Iwo Jima.
陸軍が来されていませんね。どこに？
よく存じ上げないのであります。
陸軍と連携を取っていないのか？
海軍の軍機では敵上陸まで。
これは本物の戦なんですよ。分かってますよね。
There was a lot of jurisdictional problems between the Navy and the Army and General Kuribayashi. He brought everybody together. He came up with this idea of digging these tunnels and stashing everything underground. And everybody else thought he was kind of crazy because he knew they were just holding out. He knew there was going to be no possibility that they would ever leave that island.
General Kuribayashi didn't believe in this war or in the planning for the Iwo Jima battle.
There's some speculation that he was sent there as a penalty for not being an insider in the military thing. But he did feel very strongly for his troops and felt very bad about having to do this job. He also felt bad about even being in the war to begin with because he had toured through America and he liked America and knew a lot of Americans.
How would you feel if America and Japan were to enter war?
I believe they would make splendid allies.
No, I think she means against each other.
The United States is the last country in the world Japan should fight. But if this were to happen, I would serve my duty to my country.
休んじて国に準ずるべし。世は常に諸子の先頭にあり。
Like virtually all of the Japanese troops, their commander paid the ultimate price.
Actually, we don't know how Kuribayashi died, but they never did find him.
Oh my God. もう一つだけ頼みがある。
Ken Watanabe had mentioned something earlier about maybe a gun instead of the sword. And I said, hang on that thought for a moment. And then the next day I came back and I told him what I was going to do. I said, we'll do that. This seemed interesting with the gun. The idea of the gun came to be, then I worked backwards and worked it into the story and wrote the sequence where they have this, he's with, as a flashback, he's with Americans and they present him with this pearl-handled Colt.
Captain Kurabashi, please accept as a token of our friendship this 1911 Colt 45.
We do that, and then at the beginning I'll do another little sequence. The young kids are speculating on how he got this American pistol. And then at the end, he uses the American pistol to off himself.
The miracle of this movie is the way it enlists our sympathy for a once hated enemy.
Yep. Roll sound.
353, take two.
Gran Torino is about a bitter, racist, isolated old man. Maybe the most anti-heroic figure Clint has ever played. Bringing him to a state of grace is a tough journey through emotionally constricted space.
Get off my lawn.
Listen, old man, you don't want to fuck with me.
Did you hear me? I said get off my lawn now.
Are you fucking crazy? Go back in the house.
Yeah, I blow a hole in your face and then I go in the house. And I sleep like a baby. You can count on that. We used to stack fucks like you 5 feet high in Korea. Use you for sandbags.
Okay. It's crazy.
He just wants to be left alone, and he'll take a shot at anybody who comes on his property.
Thank you.
Get off my lawn.
He's a reticent hero, so to speak. And I've played a lot of those. Most of the people that I've played were all reticent in some way or another.
That reticence is shattered by his reluctant but slowly growing recognition of the basic humanity of his Asiatic neighbors.
Ever notice how you come across somebody once in a while that you shouldn't have fucked with? That's me.
The fuck? Motherfucker crazy.
What's wrong with this lady?
The hell?
Get in the truck.
This crazy motherfucker, man. What's wrong with him, man?
You put his finger at me.
Oh, shit. Come on now. Hey, Pops. Come on now.
Question: can he learn to love anything but his antique muscle car?
And I didn't want people to say, this is a variation of Dirty Harry. Walt Kowalski is not Dirty Harry. I think maybe because he's fed up with the political niceties, that's a similarity, but I don't think they're the same guy. But Dirty Harry would have probably settled it much sooner.
You're a good man, Wally. I wish our father would have been more like you.
Don't go calling me Wally.
No, I'm serious. He was really hard on us, really traditional, and really old school.
Yeah, well, I'm old school.
Yeah, but you're an American.
What's that supposed to mean?
You like him, don't you?
Are you kidding? He tried to steal my car.
Uh-huh, and you spend time with him, teach him how to fix things, saved him from that fucked cousin of ours.
Hey, watch your language, lady.
And you're a good man.
I'm not a good man. Get me another beer, Dragon Lady. This one's empty.
He sees a generation he doesn't think much of. And then he finally helps a minority kid who lives next door who is being persecuted by neighborhood violence, and he comes to the rescue.
What the fuck, man? I didn't think your ass would have came.
Shut up, Gook. I got nothing to say to you, shrimp dick midget like you.
What you gonna do, punk
bitch?
man?
Kind of jumpy, aren't we?
Shut the fuck up.
A light?
the fuck?
No. Me. I've got a light. Hail Mary, full of grace.
Walt knows he's dying, but in his final moment, he at last finds redemption. With his death, he assures the end of terror in his neighborhood. Invictus is about a very different kind of heroism.
Good morning.
It was a project I developed and brought to Clint.
He just called me up one day and says, I've got a really good script I'd love you to direct. And I said, okay, who's doing it? And he said, nobody. And it's about Nelson Mandela. When somebody says, I got a really good script, you always go, okay, we'll be the judge of that, you know, that kind of thing. And I read it, so I called him back and I said, you know, it is a really good script. And yes, I'll do it.
Matt Damon plays the captain of a rugby team, enlisted by Nelson Mandela not just to win a championship, but to achieve by so doing a symbolic victory over age-old prejudice.
Captain of the Springboks. A very difficult job.
Well, not compared to yours, Mr. President.
Well, no one is trying to tear my head off while I'm doing mine.
Yes, sir.
It's something in history that should be told, and it should be told now. I mean, the world can use this story now.
We need inspiration, Francois. Because in order to build our nation, we must all exceed our own expectations.
So, what's he like?
He's not like anyone I've ever met before.
Yeah, well, what did he want?
I think he wants us to win the World Cup.
There was more to the story than just winning games. The team had to reach out to the black population, to involve them in a sport that was alien to them. The idea was to symbolize, through sports, the possibility of a larger reconciliation.
1, 2, 3.
Unification was his obsession. He was a man who could forgive the people who jailed him after 27 years. He says that there's strength in forgiveness. He had philosophies that are great. He took a sport that was being played by one segment of the population in South Africa and made it a unifying factor for his presidency. And it was successful.
The final match is suspensefully staged. It brings to an end the most inspiring movie Clint Eastwood has ever made.
I want to thank you for what you have done for our country.
No, Mr. President. Thank you for what you have done for our country.
Yes, it's a true story. But unlike most true stories, it's a triumphant one. It also represents, in a clear-cut way, some of the principles that have guided Clint Eastwood's life and career. Clint lives in Carmel on the Monterey Peninsula in Northern California. He discovered it when he was stationed at nearby Fort Ord during the Korean War.
I always liked it. I'd come down here on days off. You get a day like this, you'd say, yeah, I wouldn't mind living in a place like this. And if I ever made a buck, maybe I'd come back and try to live here. And so I did. When I got the Rawhide series in the late 50s, early 60s, I bought a little house down here and kept it for many years. It's a nice place to be. I came here first in 1951. I think I had my first legal beer at this joint.
He's very much part of the community. He's owned this hotel and restaurant for many years. He preserves the place as it was when he first encountered it.
I just wanted to keep it alive. It's beautiful property with a certain tradition to it. It's great.
He's also a builder. He created the Tehama Golf Course on undeveloped property he had owned for years. It's part of the pleasure of living here. He doesn't really need to toss a coin in the fountain to assure his return to Carmel. Golf is one of Clint's passions, but he approaches it with a certain irony.
Erase that one. It does make you crazy, but I think it's the fact that you think that someday you're going to be able to master it, and the real deal is you never really do. So you're always playing against yourself rather than an opponent. Basically, you're kind of playing against your own central nervous system. And it takes your mind off everything else. It's a sport you can play at any age in your life. I was always in it for the long haul. I love playing golf, but I don't want to have to play it. It's you play it because it's enjoyable, you know. But I don't want to have to get up in the morning and say, how many holes of golf am I going to play? There are other places in the world I'm sure I could get along in, but this is the place I always wanted to be. I'm fairly well known in most parts of the world, but it's nice to be here someplace where nobody cares that much about it. I continue working, and everybody wonders why I continue working at this stage. I keep working because there's always new stories, there's a new book coming along, or there's a new script comes along that is interesting and worth telling. And as long as people want me to tell them, I'll be there doing them. I'm always exploring outside of the box. That keeps me from falling in the pattern of just saying, okay, Westerns were successful for me, so I'll just do Westerns. Cop dramas were successful, I can just do cop dramas and call it a day, have a paycheck and a few beers and a nice life. That wasn't enough. Personally, it wasn't enough. I just keep buzzing along and enjoying myself.
After all these years, walking in his footsteps remains one of the movie's great pleasures.